Now live. Awkward. Waiting for people to join. Oh, hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex Spicer. I'm the editor of centraltrack.com. I'm going to be joined by Warren Lee, who is actually a Dallas native, and he's been stuck in Wuhan at the base of the pandemic since January, and he's still there. So we're going to talk to him about what it's been like the last, I guess like 6 or 7 months now. His thoughts on the differences between how China has handled the pandemic response versus the United States. He's got some thoughts. So, and I think he's here. I'm going to pin the comment. If I can get it to work. Warren, oh, he just requested. Cool. Hopefully this works. We did a test run the other night. And we'll see if... What's up, man?
We good?
We're good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Early.
Managed to wake up in a reasonable manner and make myself some breakfast, so we're good.
Yeah? Thanks for waking up so early to talk to me.
Yeah, I think a Roomba is kind of like going around the place, so might be on the noisy side.
For those of you who don't know, Warren is a Dallas native, and he is in Wuhan, China still. He's been there since mid-January. You went there for...
Chinese New Year's.
And he's still there. So,
Yeah.
and it's like 12 hours difference, right? It's like 8 a.m. there, I think. 12 hours from where I'm
Yeah,
at.
I think the sun rose a little bit. It's like one of the weirdest things to getting adjusted to being here is that that apparently all of China is in one time zone.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I know it sounds weird, but
Yeah,
yeah, literally from one end of China to the other end of China, it's all one time zone.
that's crazy. Huge.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of convenient though if you travel within China. You don't, I'm still
Yeah.
not used to the time difference between Kentucky and Texas. Every day it's
Mm. Yeah. Central time and then not Texas time.
not Texas time. Exactly. So tell everybody a little bit about you. You're 29, you're from Dallas. Um,
Yeah.
what took you to beyond Chinese New Year? What took you to China? You have a girlfriend, yeah?
Yeah. I met my girlfriend when I was like 12. What's the best way? I was doing some research in China for like the esports market.
Hmm.
To like kind of like learn a lot more about how they do things over here. Then inadvertently, we met and things kicked off, and somewhere in the middle of us dating, a pandemic happened.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So how long have you guys been together? If you had to put like a year amount on
Almost now. Yeah. Things move pretty quickly here in China for a lot of things.
it? Okay. And so your girlfriend is not, she's a Chinese citizen, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Has she ever been in the States?
I don't think so, actually. She's been to like a lot of other places because so it was in January before the lockdown happened. She had just gotten back from like a vacay in like Australia or something like that because she had like vacation days that she got like reserved before like we ever met. And she was planning to go there with her mom, right? And then right after that, you know, she got tickets to a Queen concert. So then we went to Korea for a couple days before we came back, and then boom, everyone's locked down.
How long does it take to get to Korea from China?
About kind of about maybe the same amount of time or less than from Texas to New York.
Oh, okay. Like 3 hours ish.
Yeah, yeah, about.
Cool.
It's really quick.
Cool. So you part of the reason you don't want to come back, if I understand this correctly, is because um, your girlfriend can't come with you, and then also your mother is older and more susceptible to the virus. Um,
Yeah,
you wouldn't
that's
want.
that's a big one. That's part of it, and it's like in the process of like being in transit and all that. I don't know if I would pick it up. So
Right.
I've made it through the entire lockdown in 6+ months. And if you didn't hear about it, pretty much as far as I know, every single person in this city got tested. It was actually like mandated that every person, including me as a foreigner, got tested, and we all got like test results back, and mine came back negative. So apparently, I didn't have antibodies for it. I didn't never got it. So during 6 months, in like the entire span, I forgot how long it was. Was it three or 4 months, or 2.5? I don't know. It's all like a blur now. Thinking back on it, I just remember that nothing much happened during that time. It was just like a lot of time like locked in and watching Netflix.
As
So
expected. um,
yeah, so I never got it, and since there's still no vaccine out, if I were to travel back, then that's still a giant risk factor. And looking
sure.
at the news back home, that's not super encouraging either.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned testing there and everybody having to get tested. How long
Mhm.
had the pandemic been, I guess, a serious issue before you were able to get tested? Because there are still people here who are, it's taking like 2 to 3 weeks to get their results back. How long did it take from when things really got serious to when you were tested?
Well, I never showed symptoms, so it wasn't until the lockdown was like over that they put out like the mandatory testing. But
Okay.
before that, if you showed symptoms and all that, you would pretty much like get tested immediately.
Hmm. Okay. Um,
So.
and what was it like in the beginning? Because obviously being in Wuhan, like where this all started, I'm
Mhm.
sure it was, um, they were taking this a lot more seriously way sooner than we were. We didn't go into lockdown until like mid-March. Um, so how
Yeah.
quickly did things get serious there?
I don't know. It's like I remember hearing about it like from some of my friends, or like whispers online about like a possible thing that was going to be like whatever it is, like around like early January-ish, maybe about a week or so before the lockdown happened.
Hmm.
That's when but the thing is like the way that I consume news in China is like way scaled back, because the truth is like people in the West, if you're not like a Chinese native and you don't use Chinese websites, like I use Twitter, I use Facebook, all those different sources to to get my feed, right? If you're not tuned in with like Chinese news sources, like being aware of this stuff, it's like it doesn't even happen to you, even if you're over here. It's
Okay.
like just not knowing what's going on. So, but nonetheless, I still knew like a week before because my friends were talking about it and they told me about it. Maybe you should think about this. Then it happened, and lockdown.
Huh. Okay. So then, like mid-January, you would say is when you guys went into lockdown over there.
Yeah, about that time. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and so are you even now? Are you still not very like in tune with local news outlets over there?
No, not really. It's the same idea. It's like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I would usually like just read Twitter for all my news, but usually over here, I'm not like terribly tuned into that stuff. Like most of it, if it's like super relevant to me as a foreigner, it's gonna leak in from like Twitter or something.
Okay. So you rely on Twitter a lot then for most of your COVID.
Yeah, most of it. But it's like I'm still checking on like possible flights every single day, and it's like my options for like heading home right now still don't really exist without having to do some sort of quarantine somewhere.
Um, and so, speaking of Twitter, are you able to
Mm.
access Twitter easily over there? Because for those of you who are watching, we had to do like a test run um, of this the other night because Instagram is really hard to access in China. Um, you have to go through. I'll let you explain the process.
Yeah, you just got to bounce around. There's a most of these sites don't work natively,
Twitter included?
Twitter included.
Wow. And so what do you have to do to access Twitter and Instagram like right now?
Usually a VPN service.
Okay. So is when you guys are you, can you get in trouble for that if the Chinese government catches you doing that, especially as a foreigner?
No idea. Though I suppose that the worst point right now is that they'll deport me back to America. So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair. And you also
but also at the same time, I usually don't get in trouble about these things because most of the time I just use Twitter to talk about giant robots. So,
they don't have a reason to look for you anyway, huh? Um,
no, not really.
yeah.
I like what I do and I do video games. So,
Yeah.
I'm
And
pretty straightforward.
but the way we found you is because the Dallas Morning News ran a feature on you,
Hmm.
I think May,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
about being stuck in Wuhan, which from when we talked the other night, it seemed like you don't really consider yourself stuck. You like being over there still?
Yeah, actually, it's not that bad being over here. It went from kind of like a captive situation where I couldn't go back, and the truth is like if I really, 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 really tried hard enough and paid a lot of money
Mhm.
that seems ridiculous by hopping through like multiple other countries, there's probably a way back to the States. But considering the amount of risk that would be involved combined with everything else, staying here for now and waiting until I can just buy a flight, go to the airport, and fly back doesn't sound like that bad of an option.
And two, I think you told the Dallas Morning News this, and I think you mentioned this to me the other night too. You feel safer there right now, don't you, than you
Oh
think in the
yeah.
U.S.? Why is that?
Yeah. Because there are like no cases over here.
Yeah, that's something I don't think a lot of people realize is that even though it started,
It's like if something happens, like the number of cases that happens is either if it's brought in from outside of the country, or the number is literally one. That that that's what happens. It's like the cases are so low you can count them on a hand, or reasonably, it's not like some sort of unfathomable number. Like in one day, there's an uptick of 1,000 cases, which I heard is like what happened in like Texas, like literally days ago. If that was not yesterday, I have no idea.
it's been rough recently.
But
But the last thing,
yeah, but it's something like that.
calm down.
Yeah, people feel safe here. It's like people wear face masks just because that's what you do. It's like common courtesy. It's like
You brought
there's contact tracing. If you use public transportation, there's
that.
contact tracing. Even oh yeah, like it's kind of nuts. Like in front of like some of the bigger grocery stores, they literally have like. Have you ever seen those like pretty much like heat detector machines where they can basically see like heat imaging
Mhm.
around your body? Yeah, they can legit see if you have a fever
Wow,
before you go and buy like Oreos or something.
crazy. So you then, what is the status of everything there right now? Is everything pretty much completely open? Are things still closed? Um, what's
I'm not sure actually, because the thing is like I don't really go out for much stuff because like I'm usually pretty lazy and I'm kind of a homebody, so
where
most of the time I just call in deliveries for stuff.
your girlfriend works, right? What does she do?
Yeah. She never really elaborates much on it. It's like she just works in an office and it has to do something with real estate.
What your girlfriend does? Something to do with real estate?
She just
Yeah.
tells me that she
I've-
doesn't like it and she would rather be at home doing what I do. So,
Well, then, so
yeah.
open enough to the point where she has an office job and she leaves every day for her office job.
Yeah.
That's, I think, more than the United States. Well, depending on where you're at, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
so, are you keeping up? It sounds like you're not keeping up that much with what's going on back here at home, right?
Well,
Just
it seems so mixed, right? Because the thing is, like, I know all the friends that I follow on Twitter are pretty like straight and sensible with things, but I was feeling it myself because like y'all didn't go into lockdown until like March or something like that, and I was in since like January. But there's a definite like cognitive lag time where your soul kind of just breaks and you just can't talk about COVID anymore.
yeah,
Like if you embrace it, you know it's still the truth and you still need to deal with it, but you just don't talk about it and you try to look for like some sort of like mental relief from what's going on. Like you can't run away from the issue. Like you can't run away from the fact that, it's what you have to deal with, but
right.
you don't need to like say we are in the middle of a pandemic the entire time. You can compartmentalize and say, yes, this is going on, but I still need to find like some semblance of a normal life inside of this that is safe and possible to execute.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes sense. It's definitely like I have my days where I forget we're in the middle of a pandemic, and then the next day I get so down because I'm like, man, this is never gonna fucking end. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it does feel like that.
so, but I mean, you
But
probably feel more sense of a little, maybe a little bit. And correct me if I'm wrong. A little bit more sense of freedom
mm,
being over there now that cases are seem to be under control.
oh yeah, I literally walked into like Toys R Us the other week. Oh yeah, there are still Toys R Us's over here. If you
That's
did not know that, because they kind of went bankrupt and
yeah, bankrupt.
closed all around the world. Yeah, yeah. But apparently Toys R Us is still doing well in China, and they're in like all the malls and stuff, and they sell Gundams, so that's a thing.
Right on. Well, so then is Wuhan still only as of right now doing the airport domestic flights only within China? Do you know?
I mean, from what I can tell, because I tried to look, like I could be wrong on this, right? But I checked back like a few weeks ago, and I was trying to find like flights from here to like some other country. Nah,
Mhm.
'cause I'm pretty sure there's still a limited flight policy.
And so, where are things at with like, how do you see the differences in like key differences in how Wuhan and China, maybe to a greater extent, handled this in comparison to the United States and Texas?
Well, we actually stuck by a policy of like we didn't lift the lockdown until there was like single digit cases or like a repeated downtrend for like an extremely prolonged amount of time. Like if there was an uptick, the count reset. That's just how it went. So it kind of just like encouraged everybody to the point. It's like, hey, we're gonna all do this together, and we're gonna stay inside and just not do stuff.
And so another
But
thing too,
yeah, that's the point. Like we took that figurative medicine by doing the lockdown. That's what people did. But some places were like, hey, you should stay inside. Back in home in Texas. You know, it was never really much of a lockdown.
yeah, some people were trying to actively keep things open. Um,
It, no, no. I remember I saw this thing about like someone violating it to open up their hair salon or something in Dallas. I
yeah,
forgot. I saw the story about it. It's like, wow, this is stupid. This is like I think I talked to you about like the other day and all that, but it's like I had a conversation with my mom, and it's like I got really mad at her because I was like, hey mom, if you need milk, I don't want you going to the grocery store because things are so bad right now. I will literally call up or place an order on like Amazon Fresh and all that, and just get your milk delivered.
yeah.
I don't want to lose my mom because she needs her dairy fix.
Well, in a weird sense, I kind of relate to you because I left Texas when when Greg Abbott said, open back up to a certain degree. It wasn't like, you know, um, but I knew I was a recipe for disaster. Like even if we were only in lockdown for like 6 weeks at that point, I think over here. And they were like, no, this is too much. We got to open back up. And it's like, it takes longer than that. So I trusted my gut. I was like, I know things are in Texas are going to get bad, and sure enough, they did. We started hitting
Mhm.
at least 1,000 cases a day for like 3 weeks straight, almost. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so I came to Kentucky, where my dad lives, because cases statewide when I first came were less than what Dallas County was reporting in a day. So I was like, no, I'm not sticking around for this mess. So I came here, and I don't feel as anxious, like going to the grocery store, because I know that cases have stayed relatively low. I think they're actually starting a little bit of an uptick here in Kentucky, so I'm a little concerned about that. But um,
Mhm.
they kept things closed longer here. Bars, I don't think were able to even open up in any capacity in Kentucky until like July 1st, whereas Greg Abbott was, I think, he first opened them up at like 25% capacity, I think at like mid or end of May. That's crazy talk.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's interesting that you bring up like people just being selfless over there and wanting and understanding that that was the way to, I guess, kind of get, you know, level things out, and it seems to be working.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if like I'm not really sure if like selfless is the right way to put it, right? It's like everyone here is like extremely patriotic. It's
In
like it's kind of weird to me because here's the thing. Like back in the States, like it's obvious that we've been divided ever since like Trump came into office, right?
Probably even
And you can feel that. But the thing is, you come over here, and the same thing is like as a foreigner, since I can impact literally nothing over here, it's like I feel completely removed from worrying about politics. It's like I legit don't worry about it at all. But the thing is, like people over here, they're just kind of all on the boat. It's like if like it's like a kind of a common sense thing is like if we do something to like that's gonna do good by our neighbor, it's gonna do well for the country, and in like extends that it's gonna do well for me.
so they see the big
So that's
and
yeah, yeah. It's like a big like whole big like we're kind of all in this together, you know.
it's not so it hasn't been made like a political issue over there then.
No, it's ridiculous. Like no one does that. Where it's like the whole like, oh, I need to wear a mask to some
Yeah,
sort of point because that's
I
just stupid.
you had thoughts. I was sure you had thoughts about that. Yeah, it's crazy that you were telling me actually the other night that people wore masks even pre-pandemic, like if they had the flu or if they had a cold, if they had to go somewhere, they would wear a mask already. That's already like a thing over there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is before the pandemic ever happened. This has always been the case. Like over here, it's like even when like when I was going to like college in Denton, right? Is like and there was like an exchange student that came from either like Korea or China or something. Is like if they had a cold or something, they would just wear a mask, and then people would look at them like, "Whoa, what's wrong with them?" It's like, no, there's hypothetically nothing wrong with them.
They're being
They're just trying to be conscientious for you.
yeah. That's the crazy thing is that people here. Have you seen? I know you said you haven't kept up too much, but I'm sure you've seen the people like protesting having to wear a mask over here, right?
Yeah. You know what's funny? Like even before the whole pandemic thing happened, right? Like I'm kind of like a big fan of like, mm, I guess like how to say it, like just like kind of like alternative fashion. The thing is, I always remember like I saw pictures of like a lot of like the fits like over here in China and Korea and stuff like that. And people were always wearing those really fashionable like black like half face masks, and I was like, my girlfriend like hey, where can I get one of those? Those look kind of cool, even when there was like nothing going on. Like I want to get my hands on one, and then the pandemic happened, and then suddenly everyone was wearing them.
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that. There have been TikToks from China and Korea going viral on Twitter lately of like these super fashionable people over there wearing masks, and everybody's saying how like they make it work. It looks good. um,
It's always looked good. They're just aware of it
yeah.
now.
Well, unfortunately, people here are like worried about you not being able to see their smile with the mask on. That's a real thing.
I assure you that in the particular instance that we're in right now, if I see a set of teeth in front of me, I'm not going to be smiling.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I don't. That's like the last. I don't want to see your mouth at all. So, what have you been doing then since mid-January to pass the time?
Mhm.
You mentioned Netflix. What else?
God. Wow.
You work.
You don't really think about it until you like really kind of like ask the question, right?
Yeah.
Like it's been like literally like tons and tons and tons of Netflix or like catching on movies, reading books. I don't know. Like I guess after the lockdown like stopped, right? I started like whenever I would go out for like groceries or do other stuff with my girlfriend, I was just focused a lot more on like just taking pictures. Which I know sounds weird because on my Instagram there's like practically been no pictures uploaded for like months and all that, but that's mostly because I'm really lazy. Like I gotta import those photos into like Lightroom and then I gotta tweak those light levels and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that's a lot of work. I've legit taken hundreds of photos. This would take hours for me to like import over, then get it over to my phone, then get on Instagram and all that. And then I don't know, maybe someone's gonna click the little button that's like, hey, I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of makes me anxious. But the thing is, like, yeah, maybe I should actually just start trying to do that.
You should.
That's an idea.
Photos.
Yeah, but a little bit of photography, lots of Twitter actually, just kind of trying to catch up with my friends. Because as much as I like for my own like mental health, I try not to think about how like terribly awful 2020 is.
Mm-hmm.
But I still worry about my friends back home.
Sure.
I practically lived my entire life in Dallas. That's how it is, and I still a lot of people I know still live there.
Yeah. And your mom, right?
Seems like yeah, yeah, and my mom too. Yeah.
Okay, so then do you know like a hard or even just like a rough estimate of when Wuhan started allowing you guys to go out and venture more? Was there ever a point when your girlfriend wasn't allowed to go to work or was working from home and then suddenly was allowed to go back?
I wouldn't really term it as allowed to go back because she rather liked the whole idea about working from home.
I like working
Like,
personally.
yeah, she does not she doesn't like the idea of having to go outside the front door.
Yeah, I can relate right
Yeah,
now.
if you can sleep a few more hours, then that's the thing. But yeah, there was definitely a point where things like crossed very slowly. Is like it wasn't like an immediate thing, right? It's like, hey, we're looking at it. Hey, we're looking at it. Okay, now, and like maybe about 2 weeks from now is the first possible window we're going to consider reopening.
Hmm.
Not just suddenly like, well, things expiring, we're going back to work. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the it's kind of the tactic they took over here. Um, and some places,
Yeah,
a couple states that I don't think ever even technically closed down. Um,
yeah, they didn't.
but I could be wrong. But I think like maybe Florida and Alabama. Oh, we were talking about this. What do you think about? I think it's Alabama. Governor of Alabama um, is like actively
Oh,
prevent mask orders. If anybody in the
was that
comments,
Alabama?
let me know if it was Alabama. I think it was Alabama.
I just remember
It
it
was
was
Southern.
Kent. It
Sure.
was something Kent.
But what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Oh, it's dumb. It's super dumb. It's like here's the play when it comes down to like U.S. politics, right? As if you're at like the state level, you can choose to not say anything and pass the mantle responsibility onto the federal government to mandate something,
That's been the issue.
hoping that you're not going to be cooked. Yeah, yeah, hoping that you're not going to be cooked in water for making an unpopular decision.
Mhm.
But here's the thing. That's the idea of playing politics. That's the idea of playing to, hey, am I going to get reelected? Am I going to get more votes like
Sure. Right.
come the next cycle? And when the actual thing is, the virus isn't going to wait until the next cycle.
Yeah.
It's going to keep on spreading. It's going to
Yeah.
keep on infecting people. It's going to keep on killing people. And
So what is
no one's
like there?
acting with common sense policy.
What is the system like there? Like here, our county, or in Dallas, I should say, our county judge passed a mask order before Greg Abbott did. And then there's also
Well,
like there's
I
been a lot of
saying that.
criticism because governors have kind of like waited to see if Trump would pull the trigger, but then he was like, no, it's a state's decision. What is the like hierarchy or breakdown over there? Who's
I don't know.
false? You don't know?
I have no idea.
Really?
I
You
legit,
totally have just
I legit have no, I legit have no idea how anything works around here when it comes to that, or the policy of how it happens. And sometimes when I think about it, it's kind of better that way.
yeah. Ignorance is bliss a little
Like,
bit.
don't let's not mistake this. Like, I highly do value my ability to vote back in America, right?
Yeah.
I highly value that, but it's been pretty refreshing not to have to worry about if Trump's going to do something stupid and directly affect me. Well, okay, well, he did. You know, he kind of closed off all the airports and I can't go home. But, like, aside from that, I don't talk about Trump on a daily basis. That's the point. I don't worry about what's happening, like, politically within, like, the Dallas political system or the state of Texas, or
Right now, right?
what's going to happen. It's like, because the thing is, that's what it's been for like the last like 3-4 years. It's been a nonstop news cycle of stuff just crushes your soul, and then suddenly I'm away from that, and no one over here cares about that because they got their own problems to care about.
Okay, so Pete asked a really good question. Has anybody, do you know, maybe your girlfriend has mentioned to it or you've seen it on maybe TV there? I don't know. Has anybody there even tossed around the idea of the virus being a hoax?
No,
Yeah, I figured, but you know, yeah, man.
what?
There's so many. I don't want to say so many people, but there are vocal people here who think that the virus is a hoax and that there's so many different conspiracy theories about it being created to harm Trump's chances of being reelected. I think there's a crazy QAnon conspiracy about it. There's a lot of wacky stuff. But no,
Like, let's not take this for granted, okay? Like, the seat of the president of the United States is a pretty important seat that commands a lot of power, right? But to imagine that, that a virus would suddenly mutate and spread across the world and really, really ruin a lot of lives just to screw him over, that
yeah, it's far-fetched.
that's a little bit too me at the center of the universe kind of like mentality, you know?
Okay, so then speaking of him, something that hasn't really been implemented here, at least not on a large scale, is contact tracing, excuse me.
Yeah.
That was like a really big component of how they kind of leveled it out over there. Have you or does your girlfriend take public transportation to work?
Yeah. She takes the rail every so often, or she gets a bike or a taxi or something. And every single time that she does, she scans like a QR code that's like linked together with stuff that has like her information on it. So it's a bit like she knows that she's clean, right? But hypothetically, if she was in an environment where like someone discovers that, oh, this person was sick, then they can pull up those records and then inform the people that were in close proximity that you should probably quarantine now.
So they track contact by QR codes.
Yeah, essentially.
Huh.
So before you're able to like utilize a lot of services, you have to like utilize and go into the QR code system.
Wow, that's like out of Black Mirror or something.
A little bit, but
that's a good thing because
it's kind of convenient over here. Like,
contact tracing
the point is that it was like, yeah,
really important to like combating this, and that's something that's not being done a lot over here.
yeah. So I mean, in the hypothetical scenario, is you went to a grocery store, you're gonna go buy yourself some groceries or something, and there was just a random dude that suddenly had the virus or something, and then he finds out like a couple days later that he did have it, which then happens. The hospital reports that information to like the local authorities, and they update the database and all that, and that gets popped out through the app. So everybody that was in the same areas or same facilities that he utilized, either he was in a cab or a train at a certain time, or like he was you know within a certain area, right? It alerts those people that like utilize those same facilities in that kind of time frame about possible exposure.
Okay. So it's not even like exact, but it's a rough.
It's about as close as you can get.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you
Interesting.
gotta remember, it's like the more like precise that you also get with it is the more amount of data that would need to be managed.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people in this country, so
So what has the government? I mean, I know you said that you've very like loosely paid attention, but surely you've heard about like the major stuff. Like, has the government there said anything about like the origin? I know they. I don't even think they were ever even able to identify a patient's. Um, have you heard anything
I
at
don't
all?
know they ever found patient zero really.
Yeah, I don't think they did. Um, but have they told you any updates on like where they think it might have originated? I know that's been kind of a blur for everyone.
Yeah, like all I remember is that the first time that they found like a concentration or like a case was like from that fish market or something like that, or wet market. I forgot.
Have
But the
you been?
thing is, like, it's also. Hmm?
Had you been to any of those when you got to China before um, lockdown happened?
You mean a wet market?
Yeah, in January, I should say.
Yeah, they're like. I mean, yeah, they're like all over the place. Like there is a definite like gulf of misunderstanding here when it comes down to when you hear wet market.
Mhm.
It's like when they say wet market, a wet market is any market that is not a only dry goods market. So if there's any kind of like hypothetically, if you didn't sell any animals and you were selling like onions and carrots and other stuff like that too and eggs, that would also be a wet market.
So it's
So
not.
there's a lot of different kinds, right? Yeah, like when people hear the term wet market, they just imagine like some sort of like hyper unsanitary situation or something like that. But the truth is that the majority of markets in China are wet markets to one extent or another place. But some of them are like super really nice, like like what was like the central market that we have back home, right? And other ones are a little bit more on the rustic side, to say the least, and probably don't have the best regulations on certain things.
So that's a broad term over there. That's not what people think of when they think of like. And I don't know. I've seen what people are considering a wet market in New York City. They had that's not exclusive to
Yeah.
China.
No, it's not.
Where they have
It's
it
not. It's like they're all over the place,
on the
and it's
street.
just how people get their food.
Yeah. So then that term is broad. It doesn't mean you see the photos of like um, you know all kinds of animals like just laid out. That's not exclusive to.
No,
Okay.
no, it is literally not. That's only like certain select cases.
Okay. Interesting. I don't think a lot of people realize. You're right. A lot of people don't realize that. Um,
Yeah.
so I asked you this the other night, but I don't think maybe I didn't understand fully. If tomorrow there's a vaccine,
Hmm.
the CDC, the World Health Organization says it's safe to travel again. We think we've got this under control. Would you book that flight, or are you still wanting to hang out
No,
there for a while? Really?
because it wouldn't happen that quickly. Because if there is a vaccine, even with like considering the whole thing about like rush clinical trials, there still has to come to a point where enough people get vaccinated, or critical staff within the transport industry get vaccinated, or a certain amount is out there to really like, because you know how a vaccine works. It's not just about protecting yourself, right? It stops you from becoming a possible vector of infection.
Right.
So until the vaccine is actually produced enough, like you can say there is a vaccine, but that doesn't matter if distribution wise it doesn't get out to the people.
Well, sure.
If the United States doesn't, levy behind it, the point is like, hey, we need to get this into as many hands of people as possible, and we also need to make sure that this is safe for people to use, then yeah, then that's not going to be a thing, right? Because the thing is, there's still anti-vaxxers out there. That's not going to matter. They're just determined to the fact that we're just not going to take them.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, in a situation like this, I'm not saying people should be anti-vax, but in a situation like this, people are probably going to be a little skeptical at first because there is such a rush to get out vaccinations, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure people will be
let's make this very clear. I am not a anti-vaxxer. I completely believe in vaccines, but to the point is, I understand that we are also extremely desperate for a vaccine right now because of the current case, and some steps are being fast-tracked. Clinical trials exist for a reason to protect people,
right,
with enough data behind it to make sure that the product works and is safe. So provided that we see that this thing goes through trials and there's enough testing and we see that, yeah, this definitely works and people develop safe antibodies with a relative low amount of side effects due to it, then yeah, that's great. Let's go for it.
Okay, so let me just bring that question to a base. If you could come home tomorrow, you still would not.
Yeah, not until the point. Things have just, I don't know if people really realize this, but the center of the pandemic shifted from being where I am standing with my 2 feet to over back home in the States. That's where all the cases are right now.
Yeah.
And to ask me, there's definitely a sense of responsibility for me going back to take care of stuff back home. But at the same time, if the only difference between if I go now or I go later, and the difference would be the situation is handled, I can wait a little while longer.
So you're in no rush. You mentioned that you really haven't gotten out a lot, but Pete's asking, what's it like? You showed me a really cool view that you have. Do you want to show us your view?
Oh, that's a pretty nice view.
It's pretty cool.
See. There we go.
Right by the river. What's the name
Yeah.
of the river for me again?
I believe it's called the Yangtze.
Cool. You're way up there.
Yeah, it's pretty tall up here, and I got a not real big penchant for heights, so I don't come near the balcony too much.
Sorry. To inflict.
It is a nice view. It is a nice view.
Yeah. You talked to me about this the other night, and somebody on Twitter actually requested that I ask you about this. Tell me about the floods. What's going on with all of that? We briefly talked about it the other night.
Yeah, so since that got updated, they apparently also blew up a smaller dam.
What? Intentionally?
Yeah. Yeah, they intentionally blew it up because the thing is, the dam wasn't not the big one, not the super big one. I think it was a smaller dam and all that, but it was there was so much water that it couldn't normally be let through the dam. So they actually, and areas were flooding because of it with so much water that they actually had to blow up the dam to just stop the mass flooding from happening. People were dying because of the flooding.
From drowning?
Yeah, that's what usually, what water does, you drown in it.
How long have these problems been going on for?
I don't know, a few weeks now. It's been raining just a ton, but apparently it's been raining a lot all over China, and it's the water level's been insane. How to say it? So if I were to show you right here, I don't think this can zoom. Can it? Okay, it can a little bit. So there's the road, right?
Right.
That's the road that runs along the riverside, and then here's the park. There's you see a tennis court, and then there's the river, right?
Right.
So if you look down a little bit, this where I have center of frame, that is a park area that you walk through. In between those trees there's actually a really nice walkway that extends the entire length of this entire thing, right? And what you see that is underwater right now next to that building, that's normally above water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So coming up on those trees where you see there's some water in between those trees, that's usually not underwater.
Wow.
Yeah. They said that the water level has risen so much on the river that it's actually possible that maybe like boats won't be able to go underneath the bridge. But the thing is, it has been raining for a while now, so maybe things are getting better. But like it has been pretty crazy with the rain.
I guess you don't have to worry about that though much, being that you never leave, and you're high up.
Yeah, yeah, pretty high up here, and like water doesn't seem as bad anymore. But it seems like that flooding happens kind of often-ish. It's just been like more extreme this time. So
Lately.
there's been like viral videos going around on like Chinese social media that like my girlfriend shows me sometimes about like I guess the equivalent of the National Guard over here, like going out to like villages or small towns and out there, like throwing around sandbags and stuff like that to help like prevent the flooding and helping people evacuate because that's like how serious it's gotten. It's like it is insane how much water is out there.
Wow, that's it's like perfect 2020 situation. Just when you have like a flood
Oh
under control, then you have to deal with floods, deadly floods.
yeah, yeah. It never really stops.
Yeah,
You just kind of eventually become a little bit more numb to it.
you mentioned Chinese social media, and I'm interested about this. Um, because Twitter and Instagram are difficult to access. Um, are there alternatives to those that within that Chinese people can use
Oh,
to?
are there equivalents of like Facebook and Twitter and stuff over here?
Yeah.
Yeah. They really do. They have like Weibo and well, they have Weibo, which is I'm pretty sure it's like the equivalent of like Twitter. And then because the thing is, a lot of the services around here are like a big mix of things, right? So like sometimes I use Bilibili, which is the equivalent of like Crunchyroll back in the States for like watching anime, right? And but Bilibili over here has grown to the scale where it's like also YouTube and also Netflix.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, like people are big fans of like the whole mega app thing here. So a lot of people use WeChat to communicate, which you could kind of say is like Facebook Messenger, but it's also built in with like mini app modules that can incorporate like almost any function that you can imagine.
So it's kind of all in one place.
So like yeah. But like there's always like the really big pillars and stuff gets filtered through that, but it's like the most of the reason why I don't come through is because my Chinese is like kind of rusty. Well, not really, not rusty wouldn't be the right way to say it. Because the thing is, I was never like too hot on the whole reading. Like I was mostly like taught by my family to just kind of like casually converse. And oh, I don't get the memes here.
Why?
It's like
Humor?
it's like I don't get the memes because like here's the thing. Like imagine a random meme from the States or the Western world, and then imagine a friend that doesn't get it, right? And you have to explain the meme to him, and it takes him a little bit. Then he gets it. Then he laughs, kind of laughs and chuckles a little bit. That is with every meme here. Imagine every single meme that you know, and then imagine a Chinese version of it with its own backstory that you have to explain or something. The only thing that had like absolute crossover, 100%, were those like African pallbearers. You know, the dancing pallbearers.
Good one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fine.
that completely crossed the language barrier. Okay, that meme made it over just fine.
Um, but so is the sense of humor different then? Like you know how like British people have a dry sense of humor and Americans don't really get it? Is the sense of humor different or just the jokes are just more relative to China?
Oh no, they're pretty funny once they're explained to me. They're actually pretty funny. It's like it's a wide range of things. It's just it's hard to explain, man. You got to experience it.
Fair. Um, well, let's talk a little bit about we don't have a whole lot of time left, so I want to talk a little bit about your job and what you do. Are you working
Mm-hmm.
now?
Not really much. It's more like I'm still kind of staying on the whole like research one because the main beat of what I do, which is usually events, can't happen right now.
Right.
So
So what exactly is it?
I'm grounded. Usually I would be planning events.
Okay.
like planning like large scale like events and conventions and other stuff like that, or like doing productions,
Okay.
either video, technical, networking, stuff like that. But most of that's come to a standstill, and I can't really do that over here. So yeah.
Um, could you even if you wanted to with the way, I mean, are you on like what's it like over there to be able to work as um, a foreigner?
Elaborate.
Say that again?
Elaborate.
Like, could you, especially with the situation that you're in, um,
Ah.
being kind of stuck in Wuhan, I guess, in China, could you go and get a job if you really wanted to? Like, is the Chinese government lenient when it comes to that stuff, or is it more strict? Like,
Oh no. No. Probably not.
you couldn't get a job.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm not terribly pressured to do so. Like I'm still with the same startup that I'm with, so we're just kind of like in hibernation right now.
And but see, but you're not there on a visa, right? It was just like a passport. Like,
I was here, no, yeah, no, I was here on like a visitor visa for literally like vacay.
how long? I didn't even ask this. How long did you think you were going to be there for, originally? What was it?
Uh, like maybe 3 weeks.
Oh wow! Now here you are, like 6, 7 months later, right?
Yeah, that's a
Probably,
wild twist on things.
probably a year at the earliest, right? You'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Like I had a lot of like plans, like both like personally and like professionally that I wanted to do, but then the pandemic happened and pretty much everything had to get changed.
I can relate. Um, Pete asked this good question. How long does the visa last? Or are they like allowing it to be, I guess, temporarily
Well,
extended?
my current one lasts until like maybe somewhere in the middle of next month, but until there are actually flights back, they've just been on a policy. We'll just kind of keep on renewing your visa until things changes.
I see. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean,
Huh.
there's basically two options about it. They renew my visa and I stay here, or they don't renew my visa and then they have to deport me, but you can't just be deported like say, here you are, here's the closest door, you're going to like I don't know, Vietnam or something. That's not how it works. It's like by policy they have to send you literally back to America
Where you came from? Yeah.
from where you came from. Yeah. So
Um,
I'm fine with staying here. I'm fine with going back. But the most important thing about the entire process is that you keep on communicating with the bureaus here and saying like, "Hey, this is what's going on. Okay, let's extend your visa." Like the whole communication thing is pretty important.
well, so then if your visa, so next month, are you just expecting to get like a notice from the Chinese government being like, hey, we know your visa expired, but you got to stay here?
Well, you still got to go in for it. Like the first time, right? Like because technically my visa only lasted until like because it would have hypothetically expired like somewhere in a couple of months, but like across the board, like the Chinese government just gave all foreigners that were here on visitor visas or other visas or like a broad range of different visas, right? There's like, okay, we're just going to extend this by this amount of time because the country's locked down and we don't expect you to be able to leave. So everyone just gets an extension, just flat out. If you were here during this time, you just get an extension.
Okay. Well, we're cutting it close on time, so I just want to ask, like, um, plug your like Twitter. I know you've kind of kept up. You post updates a little bit about life in China, a little bit on your Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Wee bit. Like
I
I've probably like calmed down a bit in the last 2 months or so, but I'm trying to get back into it.
I saw the we were messaging about this too. Your McDonald's order. I saw a photo of
Oh, oh yeah.
those of you watching. He was asking me about KFC because I told him I was in Kentucky, and he asked if that was like a real thing. And I mean,
If it was actually good in Kentucky.
it's the chicken is good here, but it's not. People from Kentucky aren't like, I want chicken. I want to go to KFC. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm, yeah.
it is a thing here. Like you go to like restaurants and that's what people love to get is fried chicken, but nobody actually goes to, I don't even think I've seen a KFC since I've been here. Now that I think about it. Um, but you said the KFC there is not good and that
It's I.
McDonald's has better chicken.
It's I. No, McDonald's has significantly better chicken. It's not just like better, right? It's like actually good. I would actually say that the chicken at McDonald's is actually superior to a mass amount of like mass produced chain like fried chicken places back home. It's weird. It's like the fried chicken at McDonald's is actually like amazing.
The menu is so
Like
much
it's a spicy.
different.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They change the menus all the time over here.
Huh. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I had a friend who, I think I told you about this. I had a friend who grew up in Indonesia for like 15 years.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
he, when she came back, she was like, she's born in America, but most of her life up until that point, she had known Indonesia as home. Um, and she was like, the menus are so small here when you go places. She was like, in Indonesia, the menus at like McDonald's and Burger King and stuff. And she loved Outback in Indonesia. She said that's one of the few American chains they had there. She said the menus were so much bigger. Do you have Outback in China?
Like the steakhouse?
Yeah. Well,
Huh.
it's a steakhouse, but it's kind of like it's like a Chili's kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm waiting for a Taco Bell to open in Wuhan.
No Taco
That
Bell.
would be great. No.
Oh yeah, you're a big fan of Mexican food, right? Not that Taco Bell's Mexican
Oh, I
food.
love Mexican food. Like if I see a taco, I'm gonna eat it.
I saw that in the
I'm just gonna
DMN thing.
yeah. Yeah, there's a taco, I'm gonna eat it. There's a couple like bougie looking taco places near here that I definitely want to try. But like my friends tell me all about the time is like they're over in Shanghai, right? So they recently got their first Popeyes over there, and now they're getting like their second or third Taco Bell.
Huh.
But like, those places over there are not exactly like they still do. The food is still relatively fast, but the presentation of it is almost like a sit down restaurant.
Huh.
Imagine Popeyes as a sit down restaurant.
I would imagine too Wuhan is not like not comparable to like a city like Shanghai in terms of like
Well, almost nothing. Practically nothing is comparable to Shanghai. Shanghai is nuts.
yeah.
The thing is, like, I would say that Wuhan's kind of like a Chicago.
Oh really? Okay, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, no, I talked to some of my mates before. Like you should not imagine Wuhan as like some sort of
Small.
out in the country place. There's actually a city. Is like there's a Tesla dealership. There's a Burberry, a Gucci store. Like, yeah, there is centers for everything here.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Good to know. Um, okay, well, I'm getting the time limit here, so Instagram's giving me the warning. What? Tell everybody your Instagram and Twitter handle so they can follow along with your journey.
And it's exactly the same as my Insta here. It's just FINALSIGHT. Final sites. Same on Twitter. Same on Insta. So, if you got questions, just hit me up there.
Cool. All right, Warren. Warren in Wuhan, thank you so much for joining me at 8 a.m. your time. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
it was a pleasure.
Thanks for giving us insight on from the outside looking in over here.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
I'll be in touch. I'm sure I will have my own questions for you, and as things progress. So we'll talk soon. All right.
Yeah, most def. Stay in touch.
Thanks
Have a
again.
good one.
Bye.